Damia, it's really an honor to welcome you here on our Mars kickoff meeting. Can you please briefly introduce yourself and tell where you are based?
Thank you, Christian. Thanks for the invitation. Yes, I am Damia Barcelo. I am director of the Catalan Institute for Water Research in Girona, and I am also a researcher in Barcelona at the National Research Council, working on environmental pollutants mainly, environmental chemistry.
Yeah, but there was a purpose that we invited you, so can you tell us a bit more about the potential linkage to Mars?
Yes, both projects, Mars and Globaqua, were funded under the same call, and both are dealing with multi-stressors, and both they have quite common aspects related to this, like interactions with the biofilm ecosystem services. Our project is a bit more focused on one of the main stressors, which is scarcity, and yours covers much more a broader area of the different aspects of the multi-stressors. But I should say we have quite a lot of common links that we could develop in the next 4 or 5 years.
Can you go a bit more into details with the objectives of Globaqua?
Globaqua has the objectives, the multi-stressor as well, but we deal particularly with the cases of scarcity, means high flow, low flow conditions. So basically we'll deal with many aspects related to the ecology, effects on the biofilm, effects on the invasive species, aspect like that. And then there is a point which is a bit different from Mars, which is we also deal a lot with contaminants, with chemical contaminants, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and many others.
So you already mentioned that both projects, Mars and Globaqua, are let's say dedicated to the research on multiple stresses and the effects on the environment, on the biota, but also on other potential indicators. So you also mentioned that Globaqua is focusing on water scarcity as a specific stressor. So why is it important to combine these multiple stresses, and what is the role then of water scarcity in this realm?
Well, water scarcity is because in Europe, or the Water Framework Directive started very late to recognize this. Only 10 years after it was recognized that the scarcity was a problem, was an issue. And then the scarcity is a problem because in Europe, in the south of Europe, it's a very simple approach. We have temporary rivers with sometimes during the year there is no water. So the ecosystem is under an stress which is totally different from a flooding case, for instance, which is also common in Northern Europe. So there are situations which are basically different, and then under these situations the ecosystem functions in different ways. So under flooding conditions, for instance, we did experiments under these conditions, and we know that under what we call it high flow, or let's say 40-50 cubic meters per second, not flooding but high flow, the hydrology is the main parameter, dealing or stressing or impacting the biofilm. Under low flow conditions, let's say few cubic meters per second, then the contaminants play a role in the biofilm. So that's an example of what can happen under different hydrological conditions.
Yeah. So if we go a bit more into details with these possible combinations of scarcity and pharmaceuticals, do you have specific examples where a specific contaminant or pharmaceutical is interacting with scarcity or with the hydrologic regime, and maybe also give an idea of whether these relationships are antagonistic or synergistic?
Yeah, we got an example already published from a previous project related to the same topic. That was in one of our river basins, Llobregat. We have observed in some spots where atenolol and beta blockers, for the beta blocker family, was in high abundance. The Daphnia chironomids, which is a microinvertebrate, were getting fatter, were developing much more resistance, and they were getting bigger than as compared to the rest of the river. So that was affecting, of course, some aspects related to biodiversity of this river, which is highly polluted in some areas. So that's an example when low flow conditions are affecting much more. These are affecting much more compared to regular flow conditions.
So this sounds really interesting, and I think also important. How do you plan to transfer the results of your project, the research results, into, let's say, management options, into the Water Framework Directive in a broader sense?
Yes, well, we have in our project the links with the socioeconomists, with the Water Framework Directive, with the stakeholders. So the basic idea is to use a mechanism like you will use in Mars, like policy brief, communication with the DG Environment, especially with the stakeholders from the different countries. Because Europe it's totally different. I mean, you have more than 15 cases. We have 6 river basin cases. So Europe we have all the climate conditions. We have different types of ecosystems. So it's very complex, the situation. And recognizing some of these spots, the ones that could be more in danger, and prioritizing also the stressors, because we need to make a kind of prioritization of that. So it's not the same in certain areas than another ones. So if we're able to bring some sentences, some extra information on the very generic water framework directive, because I think it's too generic, I think that will be important.
So you have been also in contact with the coordinator of the MARS project, but also with the coordinator of another project, Solutions, the name, which all deal, let's say, with very similar questions. Do you have established already a sort of strategy how these projects might collaborate in the future?
Yes, we discussed it very clear with both of them, and are good friends, so I think it will be very good, the collaboration. Solution is more a chemically oriented, fully chemically oriented project, and is only dealing mainly with a big river basin, which is Danube, so it's totally different from Mars and Globaqua. And I think we could bring extra information, for instance, in the case of Solutions, and they should be able to bring, for instance, information of the new pollutant, because now the Water Framework Directive has a candidate list, or they call it watch list, in fact. And these chemicals are under observation. So if really it comes out that after the investigations in Solutions there is a cause-effect relationship with some of these new chemicals, they should be added in a certain stage to the Water Framework Directive. So I think this is one of the tasks of Solutions, for instance, more in the chemistry side, and in our case, in the case of Mars and Globaqua, we should identify certain scenarios which can be dangerous, or should be paid more attention in the next revision of the water, in the revision of the river basin management plans, not only the Water Framework Directive but also in the revision, because certain areas could be more in danger than other ones.
So Damia, you mentioned the revision of the Water Framework Directive, which is due by 2019. If you had the power to change substantial parts of the Water Framework Directive, or if you had the power to add something, what would be your suggestion to the water managers?
Well, I think the water managers, which are they report to Brussels as well, to the environment, they should also make clear, or they should understand that Europe is not uniform. So it's not the same rivers, southern rivers, some of them with poor or not much water, dry in some periods, like Júcar or Ebrotas in Greece, Júcar in Spain, compared to the Sava, for instance, which has all the time water and great flow, huge amounts of water flow. To manage all this, you should have a vision, not to have a uniform vision. You should be tailor-made to the different situations, scenarios, as we mentioned, as we say in the project, different scenarios in Europe. We have totally different scenarios. I should say 3, 4, or 5 different scenarios, at least, that should be considered when making the revision. So what I want to say is that as a legislator, you should not have only one vision, you should have several visions, in a broad sense. Because Europe is very complex, it's not just one part of this, it's very complex, we got all the different conditions, and I think this is our task.
Damia, that's it. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thanks to you, Christian, for this thing.